Edges are elegantly chamfered and it is form pleasantly rounded. Nevertheless, the slender slice of aluminum within the right side footwell from the 2018 Bugatti Chiron is much more battle-axe than scalpel. Squeezing the floor-mounted accelerator summons 16 cylinders, 4 turbochargers, and 1,479 horsepower, enough raw, road-gripping momentum to outpace an LMP1 car in the home of Le Mans, the famed Circuit de la Sarthe. But unlike those carbon-clad prototype racers, the Chiron features a sound system that could articulate a love-dubbing bassline at 18 Hz sugared with delicate top notes due to its diamond-coated tweeters. Is this not able to speed, both lethal and luxuriant at the same time? Wretched Excess, the sequel. To skeptics therefore we know you're around. The $2,998,000 Chiron is only a pricier plus more powerful redux with the Bugatti Veyron, the automobile only a couple of hundred people inside the world can afford, anyway. But virtually nothing has become overlooked using this type of reimagined and reworked follow-up to your superlative slap two-seater. Our only target on this occasion, says Bugatti boss Wolfgang Durheimer, was to surpass the Veyron in most respect. For starters, the 8.0-liter W12 claims 95% new parts, many of which are titanium and carbon fiber for weight savings. Its 4 turbochargers are 68% larger and do 2 stages to produce a startlingly flat torque peak of just 1,180 lb-ft between 2,000 and 6,000 revolutions per minute. Though the new car is 1.6-inch wider, incremental weight savings throughout netted an essentially unchanged curb weight. Bugatti pegs the Chiron's DIN empty weight at 4,398 pounds compared towards the Veyron. Designer Etienne Salome says really the only item exempt from trimming down was the so-called Bugatti Macaron, the nose-mounted badge. Finished in baked enamel, the piece weighs 155 grams. 140 which often are composed of 970 grade silver. A new adaptive suspension system uses electronically valved sack stampers to regulate stiffness and ride height, while hydraulic flaps actively divert air through the flat underbody to help you with brake cooling and downforce. Sourced from Dallara, its carbon fiber chassis requires a staggering 1,500 hours to develop and is now so rigid it bends only 1 degree under 50,000 Nm of load, a stiffness only matched by those aforementioned LMP1 cars. At rest, the Chiron is undeniably sleeker compared to predominantly ovoid Veyron, offering complex curves as well as a subtle muscularity that contrasts its flatter, flusher predecessor. Swing the threshold open and slide within the shaped portal, as well as the cockpit appears as a more minimalist, modern space. The center console has slimmed, abandoning its subtle hat tip to Bugatti's signature horseshoe shape. The form picks up on the tire, behind which sit small aluminum paddle shifters framing a tremendous analog, 300 mph speedometer flanked by TFT screens. Word has it the gauge was useful to create a feeling of wonder so a youngster at Pebble Beach 2 decades from now could peer from the window and marvel on the top speed. The C-theme continues that has a light bar, the longest photon conductor inside the business, that arcs within the cabin, spanning in the leading edge on the headliner on the center console. Though the detailing is sparse, making its 4 centrally positioned knurled aluminum dials jump out, the ascent's occasion is strong. If the Veyron was beauty and also the beast, Durheimer says for the night before my drive, the Chiron is a lot more beast. That's an awfully promising and daunting idea to cloud your nocturnal thoughts. Thanks, Mr. D. The 16-cylinder sun also rises. Who needs coffee when you're strapped right into a $3 million land missile that has a driver's seat? Take a look at that supernumerary gauge. Even better, the kilometer measuring European spec dial on my own tester would go to 500. Nice. Press and secure the blue engine button around the wheel along with the W16 pertains to life using a hushed whir ahead of settling to a 650 revolutions per minute idle, 200 spin slower than before. Sound levels are dramatically louder outside in the leather and carbon-lined cabin, more comparable to a scream compared to a whisper. Hold the brake pedal, select the shifter into D, and touch the accelerator, and there's a startling surge forward, particularly if it's been a second since you've driven a motor vehicle with 4-figure horsepower. Right over bat, the Chiron transmits more immediacy as opposed to Veyron, feeling noticeably sharper plus much more responsive due to its improved suspension geometry and quicker steering. The disarming sensation of thrust, regardless of whether barely touching the throttle, taunts, tempts, which is all but irresistible, especially because it's associated with the subtle whir and wheeze of turbochargers and Weistegates. Unlike its perennially taut predecessor, the Chiron's adaptive suspension handles rough surfaces like cobblestones remarkably well. The knurled dial on the tire selects lift, which raises the vehicle for curbs, ebb and adaptive mode, autobahn for higher speeds, or handling track-focused modes, which affect damping, ride height, steering, and power distribution. The differences are noticeable whatsoever speeds, but particularly pronounced at triple digits. At higher velocities, the effect on the active flaps, rear spoiler, and lowered ride height not merely increases negative wheel camber, celebrate a palpable feeling your vehicle is being sucked more detailed earth. I'm told the Chiron is easy to drift in handling mode. I promise never to try. Illicit speeds are reached breathtakingly quickly. Type in triggers an escalating torque effect because the first two turbochargers spool. Hold the throttle along with the forces snowball. In moments, the Chiron is hustling at 100 miles per hour, coasting along during that speed in 7th gear, a startlingly easy achievement due to the quiet cabin, glassy ride, and effortless grunt, drops the engine below 2,000 revolutions per minute. It's a mind-numbingly simple state, gliding past slower, cell phone-wielding traffic intent on immortalizing the inconspicuous 7-figure blur. Drop a gear or two and dip to the throttle, plus the surge is downright addictive, a relentless pinto-your-seat aircraft carrier launch of acceleration that merely doesn't quit. Not that it matters especially at these speeds, though the horizontal spoiler and also the vertical ridge create crosshairs within the rear view that almost obscure the scene from behind. It is unknown whether police lights can be visible through those carbon fiber obfuscations. Despite my greatest efforts, the experience never gets old. Gun it, giggle being a schoolboy as I charge ahead at warp speed, then hit the brakes, which fills the rear view together with the spoiler cum air brake since the carbon stoppers clamp down and scrub away velocity. The effect is virtually too good within directions. Acceleration is indeed quick, time generally seems to warp, and braking is very effective. It could possibly pull up to -2 grams, enough to generate the guiltiest conscience feel that most sins have already been absolved. And then it occurs. An epically spacious downhill stretch reveals itself, and I maintain throttle pinned. The engine charges ahead as I quickly bang throughout the gears, and also the Chiron punches through air to be able, seemingly unending a sense of urgency, remaining planted because the sound volume inside cabin escalates only incrementally. I suppress the need to glance down in the speedometer, simply after I've slammed about the brakes again and returned to earthbound speed should it occur to me that peak data may be recalled around the tiny screens inside the dash-mounted buttons. The telemetry is haunting. At 6,691 revolutions per minute, the engine was producing 1,487 horsepower and, incidentally, circulating 15,000 gallons of air through its cylinders each and every minute. Indicated speed 377 kph, or 234 miles per hour. Gulp. Down to earth. The Chiron returns to its tractable, effortless self once back at terrestrial velocities. Returning to reality enables me to reflect on my small few qualms, most notable some slightly jerky low speed shifts, which I'm told spring from my car's pre-production state. Also pesky are definitely the shallow clicks from the small paddle shifters, which don't engage as satisfyingly you may hope for in a motor vehicle such as this. Apart in the quibbles, the Chiron's astounding, count-high-leaping acceleration, neck-snapping stopping power and controlled handling allow it to feel vastly improved over its antecedent. Considering half its run of 500 cars was claimed prior to first customer took delivery, it usually is that demand was piqued by its more intriguing styling, as well as perhaps Bugatti's preemptive PR tactics. Based for the Chiron's increased amounts of satisfaction driving dynamics, I suspect orders help keep pouring looking for the remaining allotment, which currently puts buyers using a 4-year waiting period. But greater crucial question for dyed-in-view wool gearheads is actually the Chiron is alluring enough to win on the skeptics and convert the non-believers. If we can all agree the golden age in the internal combustion engine is actually upon us, the Bugatti Chiron savors any romp before hybrids and electrics take control. This 16-cylinder song is probably the apotheosis of the ephemeral link towards the mechanical, your final pop of bubbly to nail the coffin on gas-powered excess. 2018 Bugatti Chiron specifications. Price $2,998,000 base. Engine 8.0 liters quad-turbo Doc 64-valve W161, 479 horsepower at 6,700 revolutions per minute, 1,180 lb-ft at 2,006, 000 revolutions per minute. Transmission 7-speed dual-clutch automatic. Layout 2-door, 2-passenger, mid-engine, AWD coupe. EPA mileage NA LXWXH 178.9 by 80.2 by 47.7 inches, wheelbase 106.7 inches, weight 4,398 pounds, 060 miles per hour, 2.5 seconds, top speed 261 miles per hour.